Hello friends, welcome to this video. You guys asked me that you want to see a step-by-step process of acquiring temporary registration. So, if you're an overseas dentist looking to work in the UK by acquiring temporary registration, in this video I'm going to walk you through the steps that you have to take in order to acquire this registration. So, take a seat and let's go. Welcome back, guys. First off, what is temporary registration? Well, temporary registration is another form of a GDC registration that allows you practice dentistry in the UK under limited conditions in particular areas. Usually it is issued for a period of 1 or 2 years and for purposes like training, research, or teaching in a hospital-based dental school. This temporary registration does not lead to full registration. You will still have to transition. But it is a great way to enter the UK dental workforce. So next, let's look at eligibility. Who exactly qualifies for this route of GDC registration? First and obviously, you must have a dental qualification that is recognized by the GDC. And all you have to do to ensure that your qualification is recognized by the GDC is to apply and acquire a NARIC certificate of comparability, what they call a comparability report or certificate. This is the only way you can tell that your qualification will be recognized by the GDC. Next, only those who are in good standing with their regulatory authority in their home countries qualify. So you can prove this by acquiring a certificate of good standing from your regulator back home before you apply for this route of registration. The next eligibility criteria they look at is the purpose of your application. The purpose must be crystal clear. If it is not clear, then the GDC might not consider your application. But usually they will contact you if there is something they need to clarify. But generally speaking, there are basically 3 reasons for this temporary registration to be granted. It is either for training, for research, or for teaching purposes. The final eligibility criteria they look at is if you have visa sponsorship. Unlike the other routes of GDC registration, which you can go through before you actually get a placement or a job or whatever else you want to use the registration for. With temporary registration, you actually have to prove to the GDC that you have either secured a training position, secured a teaching job, or secured a research placement before it is granted. Other than that, it might not be considered. So basically, those are the 4 eligibility criteria that the GDC looks at before considering to grant you temporary registration. So now let's look at the steps. But before we look at the steps, if you are new here, please make sure that you click that subscribe button and join this family because I've been making lots of videos like this and you don't want to miss out. And if you find that this video is useful, then definitely someone else can also benefit from the same information. So be kind enough and click share and share it with all your friends and even your enemies, God says you should love your enemies. That's right. Anyway, let's look at the steps. The very first step should be definitely to confirm eligibility. Make sure that all the things we have talked about previously are in order. Because without that, then your application is unlikely to progress further. So make sure that the eligibility criteria is met. Once you have checked that, then it is time to move to step 2. Step 2 is to ensure that you get a letter or a certificate of sponsorship from your sponsor, the one we mentioned earlier under eligibility. Having a sponsor is not enough. They have to give you a certificate of sponsorship which has a sponsorship number. It's a long code that you enter into your application for verification purposes. Without that, the GDC might reject your application. And this sponsorship usually comes from either a hospital, a dental school, or a research institution, as we mentioned earlier, that is granted for teaching, for training, or research. So the institution should align with that. Step 3 is to ensure that all your documents are in order. How do you ensure that your documents are in order? Make sure that copies are certified. Copies of your degree is certified, your graduation certificate is certified by a public notary, not by the institution. And they must write the words, "This is a true copy of the original." Without those words, even if it is certified with a seal, the GDC will reject your documents. Also, make sure that any document that is not in English is duly translated into English, because the GDC only considers documents in English. The third thing that you must not forget is to include a detailed CV. Include your CV. Never forget that, because this weighs in a lot when it comes to temporary registration. And of course, if you have other documents like an admission letter to a training institution, a job offer, or a research project paper, include all of that, because it will add value to your application and cause it to become successfully assessed. The first step, once you have verified that all your documents are in order, then definitely you need to submit them, upload all of them, but make sure that you double check to avoid either delay or complete rejection of your application. Double check everything and make sure it is in order, and upload, and make sure they are actually uploaded, because sometimes you might think it is uploaded when it isn't. So make sure that it's actually uploaded, and don't forget to pay the application fees, of course. The application form for temporary registration can be found on the GDC website. But if you don't want to go there, I'm going to link it in the comments below. Make sure that you check the first comment. I'm going to link it there so you can just simply download it and fill in and submit your application if you are pursuing this route. The fifth step is the one I call "you don't have to do anything" step, and that is the approval step. But you have to keep checking your mail, because in case anything is not in order, the GDC will send you an email, clarify, or request for further documents, or anything that comes up. So you have to keep checking your mail for any communication from the GDC. But the approval itself can take several weeks. So you need to exercise patience and keep checking your mail. Then once the approval comes in, congratulations, you have made it. Now you are ready to start your practice in the UK. But as a bonus tip, there are precautions you must take when you come to the UK. Under temporary registration, there are things you must not do. If not, your registration can be cancelled by the GDC. And one of them is that never be tempted to practice in a high street dental practice. Temporary registration does not allow you to do that. It is only the GDC registration through ORE, OLDS, that allows for practice in high street and anywhere else. But with temporary registration, you are restricted to where you have been assigned, to what your letter says. If it is training, it's training. If it is research, it is research. Yeah, but do not be tempted to practice in a high street dental practice. Secondly, even though temporary registration is actually granted for 1 or 2 years, it can be renewed. So you can actually keep renewing it until 7 years. So you can actually practice dentistry for 7 years under temporary registration. Good news, right? So if you are looking for settlement, it is actually one good way to settle. It is much better than doing a master's, for example, because once you are on the same visa for 5 years under temporary registration, then definitely you'll be settled. You'll get permanent residency in the UK. Good news, right? Yes. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.